So the next item that we're throwing into the mix is what if the term being squared is not just the variable itself? We have a little bit to do after we invoke the square root property. Other than just simplifying the radical, we have to get rid of what is with the variable in order to isolate it to get a solution. Other than that, the process is exactly the same. First, we isolate the squared term, then we invoke the square root property. So 3 times a minus 3 squared equals 54. First step, we'll divide both sides by 3 to isolate the squared term. So a minus 3 squared equals 54 divided by 3 is going to be 18. 18 times 3 is 54. So now we invoke the square root property. We take the square root of both sides, remembering to have the plus or minus on the right-hand side. So the square root of a minus 3 squared is just a minus 3. And then if we choose to simplify now, this radical, we have 18 is 9 times 2. So this would be 3 times the square root of 2. So plus or minus 3 times the square root of 2. And now we add 3 to both sides. Because there's a radical, these aren't like terms, so they have to remain separate. So we have a equals 3 plus or minus 3 times the square root of 2. Now, because there's something with the variable, when we check our solutions this time, we can't just change the negative to a positive. We'll have to check both of them. So let's start with the negative first. We have 3, or the subtraction first. We have 3 minus 3 times the square root of 2. So 3 times, substituting for a, 3 minus 3 times the square root of 2 minus 3 squared. We want to know, does that equal 54? So let's just go ahead and simplify this the same way we did the equation when we were trying to solve. Divide both sides by 3, and then we're going to end up with 18 on the right-hand side. So 3 minus 3 times the square root of 3 minus 3. 3 minus 3 is just 0, so this ends up being negative 3 times the square root of 2 squared. Again, we want to know, does it equal 18? So negative 3 squared is 9. Square root of 2 squared is 2. 9 times 2 does equal 18. So this does equal 18, and that checks. Now, in this instance, because it's being subtracted, we could go ahead and just change this second step to a positive, or change the first step to a positive, and the rest of it's going to be the same. But because it's being subtracted, it's not isolated. The variable is not isolated by itself. It is good practice to go ahead and check the addition instead of the subtraction. So let's go ahead and check the second solution. Square root, or 3 times a is 3 plus 3 times the square root of 2 minus 3 squared. We want to know, does that equal 54? So 3 plus 3 times the square root of 2 minus 3, that's just going to be 3 times the square root of 2 squared. And dividing both sides by 3 first, we're going to get the 18 again. And then when we square, 3 squared is 9. 9 times 2, square root of 2 times, square root of 2 squared is 2. So 9 times 2 is 18. So this does check. So when 3 times the quantity a minus 3 squared equals 54, a equals 3 plus or minus 3 times the square root of 2.